The wedding, David's secretary replaced our photo with one of them. I became the laughingstock of the entire event, but David defended him, saying it was just a joke. I had given him 3 chances, this was the last. I smiled. Fine, I said. The wedding is off. David and I had known each other since middle school, 13 years now. On the 7th year of dating, he finally proposed. It was a romantic night, fireworks bloomed in the sky, beautiful and captivating. David knelt on one knee. The fireworks illuminated his handsome face. In the soft glow, he looked at me and said, "Sarah, can I be your family?" I couldn't stop crying. I had waited a full 7 years for those words. So I cared deeply about the wedding planned for a month later. I took 2 weeks off work specifically to prepare for our wedding. I wanted to meticulously arrange the wedding of my dreams. But on the wedding day, the big screen didn't play the video I'd spent 3 nights editing. Instead, it showed photo after photo of him and his secretary, Luna. Skiing in the snowy mountains, surfing on the ocean, bungee jumping off cliffs. They conquered one extreme sport after another together. Everyone thought they were a perfect match. I had no family and not many friends. Most of the guests were David's relatives and friends. Someone was the first to ask, "What's going on? That woman isn't the bride, is she?" This question sparked a huge wave of discussion. Their curious, gossipy, sarcastic eyes all shot towards me. I stood in my wedding dress, bewildered, in front of the big screen, searching for David. He was standing with Luna, looking very surprised. He instinctively shielded Luna. I froze. In that moment, something inside me quietly rotted away. David and I met when we were in the 8th grade. Given his family background, he shouldn't have been in a regular middle school in a backward small town. After we got to know each other, he told me his parents sent him to the town to be watched by his grandmother, who refused to move to the big city because he'd been in a fight. He listened to his grandmother most. Before David transferred, I had no friends. My name was Sarah Miller. When I was 17, I made plans to hang out on Saturday with a new classmate. My mom saw us on the street and flew into a rage, rushing over to hit me. She screamed at my classmate for taking me out all the time instead of letting me focus on studying. She yelled at me for not taking good care of my younger brother at home. My classmate cried from the scolding. The next day, the incident spread, and no one wanted to be my friend anymore. I sat alone in the corner of the classroom. Everyone avoided me. Only David, with his carefree attitude, tossed his backpack onto my desk. "I'm sitting here from now on," he announced. "I'm your desk mate." Before the high school entrance exam, I was downcast. I knew these were my last days at school. My parents had long planned to send me to work at a bar after graduation, earning money to buy my brother an apartment and get him married. David thought I was stressed about the upcoming high school entrance exam and tried hard to cheer me up. "Sarah Miller, you're the top student in our grade. You can succeed at anything you set your mind to." One day, I couldn't hold it in anymore and cried, telling him I wanted to drop out. David listened, silent for a long time, then patted my head and grinned, "Don't worry, I'll make sure you keep going to school." He begged his dad to promise he'd study hard in high school in exchange for my freedom to study, and he gave Sarah's parents $500,000. After I got my acceptance letter, he returned to the city for high school too. He was at a prestigious private school next door to ours, but he'd come looking for me every day. His friends often thought we were a couple. I'd blush and lower my head, unsure what to say. One time, he walked me back to the dorm and suddenly asked, "What do you think about what they said?" I didn't react immediately. "What do you mean?" I asked. He just smiled, "Let's talk about it after we graduate." After college entrance exams, we naturally started dating. Even when he studied abroad, he'd come back to see me whenever he had a break. After 4 years, my college dorm mates said we made them believe in love. After college graduation, David returned to the US, and we were like any other couple. For 3 years, I was immersed in happiness and sweetness until Luna appeared. Luna was David's new secretary. I first learned about her one night when he came home drunk. He'd had a bit too much and was leaning on her. Luna was very pretty, with a baby face, big eyes, and a friendly appearance. She smiled and greeted me. Ms. Miller, hello. David had too much to drink, I brought him home. David hadn't drunk that much in a long time. My heart ached for him, and I reached out to help him. David's eyes were closed, and he pushed my hand away. Looking at my suspended hand, I was stunned. Luna whispered something in his ear. David, you're home. Only then did David lazily open his eyes, fall into my arms, and bury his head in my neck, saying, Wife. Thank you for bringing him back, I said to Luna. I'm David's secretary, it's my job, Luna said shyly. Oh, and Sarah, she added, I just started. The previous secretary left in a hurry, and I didn't get a chance to ask David about a lot of his habits. Could I add you on WeChat? I could ask you if there's anything I don't know later. Her sincere appearance made it impossible to refuse. I nodded and added her contact information. I helped David wipe off and change into his pajamas. The next morning, as I was preparing breakfast, he woke up and hugged me from behind, murmuring, Wife, you're the best. I shyly pushed him away and asked about last night. Why did you drink so much? David sat down and said casually, Luna doesn't drink, I helped her cover a few glasses. My movements paused for a second. A thought popped into my head. If she doesn't drink, why did he take her to the dinner in the end? I didn't ask. I never interfered with his work matters. I believed he didn't want me to question him. Luna added me on WeChat and contacted me a few times, asking things like how much sugar David takes in his coffee or what his dietary restrictions are. This made me feel like my suspicion that night was just me overthinking. So I felt a bit guilty towards her until something happened on my birthday that made me realize David's feelings for Luna were out of the ordinary. That night, he came home from the office early. While I blew out the candles, he sat across from me, looking a bit distracted. He kept glancing down at his cell phone. After I finished making my wish, he was still staring at his cell phone, seemingly dealing with some difficulty. I couldn't help but ask, David, is something wrong? David suddenly stood up. The chair scraped across the floor with a harsh sound as he moved, but he didn't seem to notice. He grabbed his jacket and rushed out. Something came up at the office, I need to go check it out. It must be urgent if he was in such a hurry. My heart sank. I grabbed his jacket sleeve. What is it? Do you want me to go with you? No, he said, pushing my hand away without looking back. He didn't look at me once until the door closed. After he left, I just sat in the living room. Worried about disturbing him, I only sent a few messages occasionally asking if things were resolved. The elaborate cake slowly melted, but he didn't reply to my messages. Is he really that busy? I opened WeChat, intending to ask Luna what was happening at the office, but I accidentally clicked on her social media feed. At 9 in the evening, she posted, so unlucky, fell skiing, with a photo of herself in a cast lying in a hospital bed. 9 o'clock, that was exactly when David had rushed out. My heart skipped a beat. My cheese. Tea felt empty, as if something bad was about to happen. Just then, her social media feed updated. The photo showed the corner of a man's suit jacket, black. On the lean wrist resting on the edge of the bed was a black watch. It was a matching set with mine. The caption read, I told him he didn't need to stay with me, but he wouldn't leave. My head felt like it had been hit with a club. It hurt a little, and I felt lost. Did they know each other abroad? Why didn't David ever say anything? I clicked on our chat window, intending to ask Luna, when she immediately sent a message. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I just found out it's your birthday tonight. Are you okay by yourself? Don't worry, I'll rush David back right now. A few minutes later, she sent another one. Sarah, he won't leave. David didn't come back until the next morning. I had sat in the living room all night. He was startled when he opened the door. Why are you sitting here? I looked up, my eyes bloodshot. Where did you go last night? David walked over and knelt in front of me. Didn't I tell you something came up at the office? Of course I went to the office. I said softly. I added Luna on WeChat. David's eyebrows twitched, and his composed expression slowly crumbled. The next second, he sighed and held up his hands in surrender, trying to play it off with a slightly joking tone. I'm sorry, wife, I lied to you. Luna and I were college classmates. She helped me out abroad, and now her family is all overseas. Last night she broke her leg and was in the hospital with no one to take care of her. I just went to check on her. Then why didn't you tell me? I asked. Wasn't I afraid you'd overthink it? He knew. Because he hid everything from me, that's why I overthought it. Did you hire her as your secretary because of her abilities, or because you were classmates? Of course, because of her abilities. I had absolutely no ulterior motive. Wife, you have to believe me. He didn't realize it. WHE. And he said this, the corner of his mouth twitched instinctively. I knew him too well, I was intimately familiar with his nervous little habits. David had told me, with me there, I'd give him 3 chances. No matter what he did, I'd forgive him. So I chose to pretend not to see his guilt, to be blind, and hugged him, feeling wronged. Last night was my birthday. You promised to spend it with me every year. Don't ever leave me again. David's face relaxed into a smile. However, he didn't keep his promise. Half a month later, he left me again. We lived in a house he bought downtown, not far from our office. When he first came back, he used to drive me to and from work. But soon we both couldn't stand it because the traffic was too bad. I preferred my scooter, it was a 10-minute direct ride. After what happened on my birthday night, he started picking me up again. I didn't refuse, and he kept it up for half a month. That afternoon, he told me he had a dinner engagement and couldn't pick me up. Receiving that message, I actually felt a sense of relief. I didn't want him constantly reminding me that he had left me for someone else. That day after work, my boss suddenly called me over. He had transferred in a month ago. Compared to my previous boss, who was humorous and witty, he was much more reserved and steady. We had secretly counted, and he smiled less than 10 times a month. Our company didn't have a culture of working overtime, and I was worried he had brought bad habits from his previous company. But unexpectedly, he asked, has your boyfriend been picking you up lately? I didn't like discussing personal matters with colleagues, let alone my boss. I said politely, I don't think that affects my work. Mr. Thompson nodded, then turned his cell phone to show me a photo. Indeed. But coincidentally, I was David's upperclassman, and we even went skiing together. The photo appeared before my eyes without warning. I immediately saw the intimate couple in it. Hey, were wearing matching ski suits. David was embracing Luna, a bright smile on his face. No matter how you looked at them, they seemed like a sweet couple. What was I? Then a joke, a massive wave of sadness washed over me. I couldn't breathe for a moment. I clutched the photo tightly, my body trembling uncontrollably. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window, the sky was dark and oppressive, weighing down on me so much that my back was bent. It turned out they had been so close in places I couldn't see. This made my self-deception and willful blindness during this time seem so ridiculous. Mr. Thompson's eyes, filled with a hint of pity, fell on me. They were quite close in their second year of college. I'd always heard David had a girlfriend in the US. I didn't expect it was you. My voice was hoarse. Why are you telling me this? He could have just pretended not to know anything. Why shouldn't I tell you? His dark eyes behind his lenses flickered with confusion. I warned David that what he was doing wasn't right. Seeing my silence, he seemed a little annoyed. Should I not have told you? No, I said. Thank you. Can you send me the photo? He moved his finger and the photo was sent. Without looking up, he added, don't let this affect your work. While waiting for David to come back, I thought back on my 4 years in college. I trusted him with all my heart. I didn't know when it started, but we talked less and less. When he came back to see me, we barely had anything to say to each other. At the time, I was very anxious. We were gradually losing our common ground. Can we really make this work? I voiced my worries, and David comforted me, saying that just being able to sit quietly together was the greatest happiness. But sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and see him smiling happily at his phone. There was even one time when there was a school shooting where he was studying. I glimpsed a news notification on my phone and was so scared I looked out into the hallway to call him. It was around 9 p.m. there. David didn't answer. Had something happened to him, I was so terrified by the scenes I imagined that I curled up in the corner and cried, calling him again and again. At the same time, I was searching for how to quickly get a visa. An hour later, he finally answered, his voice hoarse, saying he had fallen asleep. He hadn't been in any danger, he just didn't tell me because he was afraid I'd worry. He'd call me and complain for half an hour if he even splattered oil on his hand while cooking. When did I stop being the person he shared everything with? I also never wondered if the sound of water in the background meant something. David didn't push open the door until late at night. Our eyes met. He seemed to sense something and instinctively wanted to back away. This action stung my eyes. He also realized how strange this gesture was, pursed his lips, and pretended everything was normal. Why are you still up so late? Who did you go to dinner with today? Was I overthinking, or was he guilty? I placed the printed out photo on the table. His eyebrow twitched. He snatched the photo. How did you get this? I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't. Does it matter? His first reaction was to question me, not explain. David rubbed his nose. It's just a photo of us together. Why are you making such a big deal? Then why did you do it? I asked. Or were you dating her back then? David became exasperated. What are you talking about? Is one photo really worth this? There was a shooting the day before, and we were under a lot of pressure. She comforted me and dragged me along to ski. There were many people in the photo, and I was just more familiar with her. You could have talked to me if you were stressed, I said. He retorted without hesitation, what use would that have been? Could you have come to see me? You were always busy with your studies, busy with your work, busy earning that little bit of money. Where do I rank in your heart? If I told you, would you even care? I stared at him in shock, unable to believe those words came out of his mouth. I thought he knew. I was working hard for our future together. I was always the first one in the library and the last one out. All my spare time was filled with part-time jobs. I had to repay the $500,000 his dad gave my parents, and then stand by his side. David saw my tears and froze, showing deep remorse. I'm sorry. I pushed away the hand he extended. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by a hand. It hurt so much I couldn't breathe. As the atmosphere in the living room became almost frozen, David's cell phone rang. He hesitated, looked at me, and then moved away to answer the call. I heard the sound of heavy rain coming from the phone. My leg hurts so much, a voice said. David's back stiffened for a moment. I heard him reply, wait for me. He couldn't leave. I clutched my chest and said weakly, David, I don't feel well. If he had just turned to look at me, he would have seen how pale my face was. But he didn't. He didn't even grab an umbrella and slammed the door shut as he left. We both need to cool down, he said. As soon as the door closed, I crumpled to the floor in pain. My vision swam, and I felt death approaching. A strong sense of crisis suddenly surged within me. I couldn't die. I had fought with all my might to climb out of the mire of my family. I had a decent education, a job I liked. I couldn't die here. I crawled to my cell phone and dialed 911. After giving my address, I lay on the floor, tears streaming down my face, and called David. You said you'd never leave me, I sobbed. I'm scared to be alone in the hospital. Call after call, he didn't answer. I finally gave up. In high school, I had fainted before due to long-term malnutrition and academic pressure. My mom came to the hospital to see me, and the first thing she said was to scold me. The clothes at home haven't been washed in days. When she heard she had to pay the hospital bills, she snuck out when the doctor wasn't looking. David covered all my hospital bills. He grumbled while putting the test papers from the day on my hospital bed. Don't worry about anything with me here. He brought me 3 meals a day, treating the hospital like home, coming every day. The day I was discharged, I had gained 5 pounds since I was admitted. David was very pleased and pinched my face. I vowed emotionally, David, if you're ever in the hospital, I'll bring you food every day too. Grateful for David's care, I made time to study with him for his exams. In March, we took the test together. I scored an 8, he scored a 7. It exceeded the goal his father had set. He excitedly hugged me and spun me around. You're my lucky star. David stopped, blushing, and also trembled as he hugged me back. We hugged under the tree for 5 minutes. Neither of us said anything, and it didn't feel difficult at all. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the hospital. David's eyes were red-rimmed. "I'm sorry, Sarah, I didn't know you were really sick." His tears immediately fell, and he kept saying, "I'm sorry." After learning from the hospital that I fainted due to extreme emotional distress, David stayed in the hospital to take care of me for a week, even moving his work to my room. I didn't welcome his presence, but I didn't reject it either. Even the nurses quietly told me, "Your boyfriend is so good to you." The day before I was discharged, David was sitting on the sofa and suddenly pushed his documents away in frustration. "This is annoying, I don't want to work." My heart stirred. Before I could fully react, I called his name. "David." David excitedly ran to the hospital bed. "You're talking to me?" He hugged me and kept confessing. "I'm terrible, I shouldn't have hidden it from you. Luna and I are really just friends, I don't like her, I only like you. Don't worry, I fired her, I promise. I'll never contact her again. I shouldn't have doubted your love for me. How could I not know you love me the most? Will you forgive me?" He started crying as he spoke. Can a person love two people at the same time? When he hugged her intimately like in the photo, did he really not feel anything? I let him hold me tightly and whispered in his ear, "This is the second time." Second time what? David cupped my face, his eyes sparkling with fragmented light. "Sarah, I only want to be with you. No one is more important than you." The day after I was discharged, he proposed to me. I accepted. Strangely, the moment I accepted the ring, besides feeling happy, I found myself wondering if he was proposing sincerely or out of guilt and compensation. Yet at the wedding, photos of him and Luna were displayed. She even added pitifully, "I didn't know you would be so angry." David's face turned pale. "Luna isn't the type of person you think she is. Don't make a joke out of something as important as getting married." I gave him a scathing look. "Bitch!" In Luna's piercing shriek, I slapped her hard. David immediately pulled us apart, surprised. "Sarah, what are you doing?" To everyone who knew me, I had a temper so good it bordered on weakness. Forget hitting someone, he'd never even seen me argue with anyone. Actually, it was just that they hadn't touched my bottom line. I sneered, "You're a bitch too." Under their shocked gazes, I walked to the big screen. I took off the engagement ring and smiled brightly. "Wish me luck, I'm single again today." Because my ex-fiance got tangled up with his secretary and ruined my wedding. These two were made for each other. Let's wish them well. I clapped. There was only scattered applause in the room. I casually tossed the ring aside and walked towards the door, holding up my dress. "Sarah." David frantically went to pick it up. I didn't look back. Each step I took was firm and determined. When I got into the taxi, the driver, a kind, older woman, glanced at me in the rearview mirror. She handed me a packet of tissues. Only then did I realize I was crying. When David returned, I was packing the last of my things. Almost everything in the apartment was bought by David. I was only taking my clothes. He grabbed my suitcase. "Where are you going? Where else could you go? If you leave here, that's none of your business. I've already rented an apartment." His eyes widened. "When?" The day after my birthday. Without any hesitation. After he abandoned me to take care of Luna all night in the hospital. I took half the day off in the morning to look at apartments, signed the contract at noon, and went back to the office in the afternoon to continue working. I never thought of telling David. Perhaps from that day on, I knew deep down that this day would eventually come. This place didn't belong to me. David's face turned green. "You're leaving me just because of a joke? We were long distance for 4 years in college and never broke up. Didn't we say we'd always be together?" I grabbed his hand and pulled it away forcefully, accidentally knocking off his watch. The black watch fell to the floor, and its parts scattered. "You and Luna were already involved. I don't hate you. It's just that I have no expectations of you anymore. More importantly, even if I had known you would do this later, I wouldn't feel sad at all." I curved my lips into a sarcastic smile. "What do you think that means?" He understood. It meant I didn't love him anymore. We were truly over. He let go of my hand, his eyes pleading. I spent half a day cleaning the rental apartment. The next day, I was refreshed and focused on work. When I brought documents to Mr. Thompson, his gaze fell on my bare middle finger. He hesitated for a while before looking away. He said leisurely, "There's an expatriate opportunity next month. Our department has 2 spots. I recommended you. You can go home and think about it." Expatriate. I was stunned. Ned by the sudden news. "When did you recommend me? Next week?" "Oh." He actually smiled at me, a smile that was kind and almost benevolent. "Close the door on your way out. Thank you for your hard work." Closing the door, I felt like I was dreaming. This was the first time Mr. Thompson had smiled at me. Before this, I had thought he was going to be a cold and heartless boss. A while ago, he first saw my terminated engagement ring. He didn't say a word, just frowned, his eyes showing regret and pity, as if saying, "Such a good person, why would she do something like this?" From that day on, he never smiled. We secretly called him the Iceman. In my settled life, David was the only thing that made me sick. He called me every day. I blocked one number after another. He didn't give up and sent long messages and emails. After ignoring them for a few days, he couldn't stand it anymore. He held a large bouquet of flowers and stood outside the office building, waiting for me. He smiled happily and extended his hand towards me. "Sarah, the watch is fixed." This watch was the least expensive thing David owned, the most expensive birthday gift I bought for him with money I earned from part-time jobs, gritting my teeth, and he wore it for 7 years. A friend once laughed at him for wearing such a cheap watch, and he immediately frowned and said, "This is the most precious thing I own." That friend was too scared to tease him again. But it was also with the watch I gave him that he took care of Luna all night. I wonder if he ever looked at the time that night and thought about me waiting at home. I curled my lip. "He has nothing to do with me, and you have nothing to do with me either." I sped away on my scooter. David was born with a silver spoon. Life had been smooth sailing for him. I guess the few times he hit a wall were because of me. I didn't expect him to still not give up and even find backup. When Luna's text message came, I laughed out loud. How dare they? I still went to the meeting to see what trick he was up to. Seeing me, she immediately started saying tearfully, "David asked me to come explain our relationship." "Sarah, there's really nothing between us. David hired me because I was his classmate, and I've already resigned now. I'm so sorry about the wedding day, I know I was wrong. As long as you're willing to forgive me and forgive David, I'll do anything you want." Saying this, she started sobbing. Luna paused for a long while, then said, "Sarah Miller, that's enough. Do you really have to be so aggressive?" David's voice came from Luna's cell phone, which was on the table. Luna's face showed mockery, but her tone was anxious. "Don't argue because of me." Then she hung up the phone. Luna said triumphantly, "I won. David still can't let me go." I felt extremely strange. Why would I compete with you for a despicable man I don't want? "Oh, David didn't tell you he helped me open a studio because he knows I like fashion design, did he?" Luna's voice was full of condescending pity. "And you don't actually think we were just friends, do you? Do you know what we were doing the night of the shooting? He and I were in bed." "Oh, I told him not to answer your call." "Shut up," I yelled. So all along, David's support, encouragement, and backing for me had been born out of his guilt over betraying me. "What right do you have to talk about us?" Luna said, getting angrier, as if I had done something unforgivable. "David was abroad for so long, and he always came back to see you. Did you ever go to see him? Do you know about the stress he had from failing a course, or that he faced racial discrimination, or that he was mugged? He was there for me when I was in trouble. What could you do? You wouldn't even buy a plane ticket. You only knew how to enjoy his love." Luna looked in the direction I was staring, confused. David staggered over, his body trembling. He wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. I asked him, truly bewildered, "I only knew how to enjoy your love. Is that right, David? Have I really never done anything for you?" I sneered. Without saying anything more, I took a taxi and left. I walked away, leaving them behind, afraid that looking at them any longer would make me explode. When I applied for my visa to go abroad, I heard from a friend who attended the wedding that David and Luna were arguing. My friend answered my question. Luna's previous boyfriend paid for her studies abroad. He was wealthy. Before they were going to get married, her ex found out that Luna had been dating David in college behind his back, and he immediately cut off all financial support for Luna. She couldn't find work abroad, and then Luna thought of David again. My friend said David was foolish, deceived by Luna. But a few days later, David sued Luna. She couldn't repay the money. A few days later, my visa finally came through. Before I went abroad, I received a call from David's friend. He said anxiously, "Sarah, hurry and come to the hospital. David has alcohol poisoning and is in the emergency room." He said that after I broke up with him, David drank like it was water. "Tomorrow, I want to eat the breakfast you make. When are you coming over? I miss you so much." I thought I'd open my eyes and see you. I cut him off. "I'm not going to forgive you. You ruined my fantasy of love." I sighed. "Besides, I'm leaving." An airport announcement reminded passengers about the boarding call. David's end of the line became frantic. His breathing was heavy. "Sarah Miller, where are you going?" I hung up the phone and took out the SIM card. I walked onto the plane. I was embarking on a new journey in life. When I first landed, I was very busy. Busy adapting to the environment, adapting to the work. Half a month later, I became familiar with the work pace there and reconnected with my colleagues back home. That day, one of them told me that my boss, Mr. Thompson, had gotten into AF. Mr. Thompson had fought David for me. On the same day, I received notification to return to the US and an email congratulating me on my promotion. After returning to the US, I finally had my own private office. I bought my own 2-bedroom apartment. To achieve my financial goals, I started focusing on my career. The end.